And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and as always, it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday. We got a lot to talk about on today's show, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to streamelements.com/GSMCsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show. And it basically gets your comment highlighted. I talk about it on the broadcast, and it's really a great way to interact with the host, myself, and it makes the broadcast better. And that's really what it's all about is, the interaction between the host and the viewer. So make sure to do that. The link, once again, is streamelements.com/GSMCsportsnetwork./tip, and it's on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment. So we got a lot to talk about on the show today. As I was coming on, I realized that I forgot to retitle the episode for the show, so I was literally scrambling to correct that. So otherwise, it would have been the title of yesterday's show. So that's why we were, a tad late getting on for the broadcast today. But we're good. We got a lot to talk about. So starting off the show, we're going to talk about the Raiders letting go of Josh McDaniels and their general manager. That was, that happened late yesterday or last night while we were all sleeping. So this was an early Christmas present for the Raiders fans, because, they've been so frustrated with the kind of season that, their team has had. And obviously, players being frustrated as well. Obviously, Devontae Adams and, his displeasure with the team. It's, and the Raiders, they've just been disappointing this year. This was a team that made the playoffs a couple years ago. And, they brought in McDaniels to be the head coach. And they let go of him and General Manager Dave Zeigler. So that's what we'll start off with. Then we'll talk about the trade deadline. Several trades were made yesterday, so we'll go over that. In the second part of the show, the third part of the show, we'll go over the power rankings that were released this week. I'll give you my thoughts on that. And then we'll close out the show by talking about the standings for this week after week 8. So that's basically the rundown for the show. So let's get right into the first topic, which is talking about the Raiders letting go of Josh McDaniels and Dave Zeigler. So, yeah, this happened late last night while we were all sleeping. And like I just said, Raiders fans got an early Christmas present with this. Really was not a good tenure for Josh McDaniels, and Dave Zeigler was, brought in as well. He lasted a season and a half, and both of these guys are gone, and now the Raiders can move forward. And, it just really makes you wonder why the Raiders, brought in Josh McDaniels, because, right before I got on, CBS Sports posted something on their social media, and Josh McDaniels, when he became the head coach of the Denver Broncos, he started off the season 6-0, and that was when Kyle Orton was the quarterback, and the Broncos, they were riding high. And then since then, his record as a head coach is 14-33. So with the Broncos, he was 5-17. He was fired by Denver after Week 13 in 2010. And then with the Raiders, he had a 9-16 record. 20-33 record as a head coach. And, you see a lot of these guys, they leave New England and they go elsewhere and they don't really succeed. You see Joe Judge, what he did with the Giants, what Matt Patricia did with the Lions. Bill O'Brien had a couple of good seasons with the Texans, but it didn't really amount to anything. They never won a Super Bowl or anything. They never got it past the second round. But a lot of these guys, they go elsewhere and they don't find success. Now, could Josh McDaniels, and I did mention this, is it possible that he could go back to the Patriots? You never know. You never know. Right now Bill O'Brien is the offensive coordinator. But you would think Bill Belichick, if he's still coaching the Patriots, would want to bring him back. I don't know. That's just my opinion. But, the Raiders, they were a team that made the playoffs a couple of years ago. I talked about that when I was going over what we were going to talk about on the show. obviously the 2021 season, that a lot of stuff went on. I mean, the John Gruden stuff and what happened with Henry Ruggs. I mean, it was the team was in disarray, and then they gave Rick Bisaccia the interim head coach position. You know, and he did well with the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders ended up making the playoffs. They righted the ship. They got things right. They made the playoffs, and yeah, it makes you wonder why the Raiders didn't give him another chance. And they went with Josh McDaniels. And, it's obvious he wasn't a Derek Carr guy. Derek Carr ended up leaving to go play for the Saints. They got rid of Waller. And look at what they're doing now. I mean, they don't use Hunter Renfrow. This is a guy that had 1,000 yards receiving a couple of years ago, and he just is a non-factor in the offense. They bring in Jacoby Myers. Devontae Adams, they try to get the ball to him. They at least tried to get the ball to him the other day, and it just did not pan out. I mean, Garoppolo threw a pick, and, he overthrew Devontae Adams. But it just really makes you wonder a lot of the decisions they made. Because, Rick Bisaccia did a good job with the Raiders as the intern head coach. And, you bring in Devontae Adams, which was a good move. To play with Derek Carr, to go along with Waller and Josh Jacobs and Renfrow. And it just didn't pan out. It didn't pan out. They also got Chandler Jones too, but, with what's been going on with him, that really didn't pan out. So, and then you replace Derek Carr with Jimmy Garoppolo, who's been injured a lot over the course of his career, and he's been banged up this year as well. And I think these last two games, getting blown out by Tyson Bagent and the Bears, and then, losing the other night, they had to do it. And I think it was the right move. And now the Raiders can move forward and maybe, they can figure it out somehow. Because, the offense that they have, they got rid of Waller, but you still got Devontae Adams. You got Jacoby Myers. You have Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs. And, Michael Mayer, you drafted at the tight end spot. So you're hoping he can become a good player. They also have Austin Hooper. So, you got a ton of weapons. I think you just got to find a quarterback. Does AidanO'Connell start moving forward? We'll just have to wait and see. I just feel bad for Garoppolo because he's always getting hurt. And like I said yesterday, he's one of those quarterbacks that always gets hit, in the wrong places. Like, naturally gets hit in the wrong places, like, all the time. And that's why he's always hurt. You saw when he got hit in the end zone, and hurt his knee. What happened with him against the Steelers, when he injured his back. He's always just getting hurt in the wrong positions. And for some reason now my camera decides to act up and freeze. So we'll have to fix that right now. I don't know why this decided to do this. It's just I don't get it. It makes no sense. Let's just see if we can wow. This camera is just a disaster. But yeah, when you look at, the moves that they've made and, bringing in Josh McDaniels, it just wasn't the right decision. Okay, oh wait, here we go. That should work now. Yeah, just forgive me with these technical difficulties during the broadcast. I don't know why. I don't understand why I decided to do that. Okay, we're good now. We're back. Yeah, it just wasn't the right move with what they did with Josh McDaniels. And then on top of that, with Garoppolo, replacing Derek Carr with Garoppolo, it was kind of a downgrade because Derek Carr is a bigger arm, and obviously he had a down year last year, but I think you probably still keep Derek Carr around. But they decided to move in a different direction. Josh McDaniels, they brought in his guys, Jacoby Myers, Garoppolo, and it just really didn't pan out. Raiders are now 3-5 on the season. Looks like they're not really going to do anything this year. But yeah, you can't complain about it. For the Raiders and their fan base, they got to be happy, especially the fan base. They got to be happy with this because, again, this is a team that made the playoffs and then they regressed. That's simple as that. They regressed. But it is what it is. And, now we'll see what they do moving forward. Does Davante Adams get the ball now? Are they going to make a change at quarterback? Is Aidan O'Connell, like I said, is Aidan O'Connell going to be the starter moving forward? It just remains to be seen. But, actually, I should mention who is now the head coach. They gave that head coach position now to Antonio Pierce, who used to play linebacker for the Giants and was one of the defensive players on the 2007 team. And coincidentally enough, the Raiders will be playing the Giants on Sunday. I know I've been talking about this. I'm like, that's one of the things I had to bring up, and I didn't because I've been so focused on the firing. But yeah, so Antonio Pierce is going to be the head coach for at least the remainder of the season for the Raiders. So that's going to be interesting. And it's crazy because, yeah, he's going to be playing the Giants. So he'll be coaching against the Giants, a team that he knows very well. And, we'll see what happens there. I mean, obviously, last year, what happened with the Colts, you had Jeff Saturday taking over. And it was funny because I watched ESPN had a segment where they were talking about what happened with McDaniels. And it was on Get Up. And Jeff Saturday wasn't there. Like, his seat was empty. And they're like, oh, no, did they take his spot? And then he walked out with the Raiders helmet. So it was a funny little bit, at least I thought. But yeah, so Antonio Pierce is going to be doing what Jeff Saturday did last year. And obviously, you would imagine he's going to be like, all right, we got to get the ball to our guys. Let's get the ball to Davante. Let's get the ball to Renfro. Get guys involved. Because it just doesn't make... I mean, like I said, they tried to get the ball to Davante. But it just didn't really work out. Garoppolo missed throws and threw a pick. I just still can't wrap my head around Renfro and how he's just been a non-factor these last couple of years. Because, I mean, he was an 1,000-yard receiver. Now, I understand, you bring in Davante Adams and your targets are going to go down, but, I mean, he's just had no impact. So now with Josh McDaniels being out, I mean, now you're not going to be favoring your guys like Jacoby Myers. You're going to be spreading the ball around. So, we'll see how it goes moving forward, but it's a step in the right direction, definitely, for the Raiders. And, we'll see, like I said, with the quarterback position moving forward, but yeah, so that was one of the bigger headlines from yesterday. So with that, we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we will talk about what happened with the trade deadline yesterday, and we'll go over the trades that were made yesterday. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.